Welcome back to News Talk. 15 before the hour now. The field for next week's GOP debate in Milwaukee is set. 8 candidates will be on the main stage. There will be 4 on the undercard, and a couple big names are out in the cold. They will not debate anywhere. Reporter Dave Weigel is tracking it all for the Washington Post. He joins us now from the paper's newsroom downtown. David, it's great to have you with us. This is an interesting moment. Every debate sponsor, if you will, this time it's Fox Business Channel, I think it's called, or Fox Business Network. They had their own criteria. They crunched their numbers and came out with the field last night. Your reaction?
Well, the problem that all the undercut campaigns will point out is that crunching numbers is almost an overselling of what had happened here. The numbers they're using to determine who's in the debate are national polls, which have very high margins of error, which cover swaths of the country. They're not going to get much of a say in who the nominee is. If you look at Bobby Jindal, he's doing better in Iowa than some of the other people who are on stage. Mike Huckabee, same situation there. In New Hampshire, Chris Christie has been basically parked there when he's not in New Jersey for the better part of the year and is moving up. He's downgraded. The campaigns are trying not to whine about it because there's a lot going on, but they're all unhappy with the mathematics used to make this happen.
At 8 candidates, and I think we have the list, and if so, we'll put it on the screen. This will be the most compact encounter so far, right? We've had 11, and here's the list. Donald Trump, Ben Carson, Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, Carly Fiorina, and I believe my colleague Scott Duman is talking to her today, program note, Rand Paul, and an 8th name. So this will be the most compact. John Kasich of Ohio, thank you.
Right.
So this is, not that it's small, but we're getting to a more manageable number, right? This could impact the flavor and the type of crosstalk or engagement that we see in here, right?
It could, though. Manageable is an interesting way of putting it. Lindsey Graham, who's been cut out of both debates, is somebody that a lot of guys wanted to have in the main debate stage. He's very witty, he's very quick. He would have been, I think, almost a heat-seeking missile for Jeb Bush and some of the campaigns that have stumbled in their attempts to criticize Donald Trump or to criticize Rand Paul's foreign policy. They're not necessarily happy to have Carly Fiorina on stage, who has been tumbling since the last debate. She had a moment, she hasn't been able to capitalize on it. Jeb Bush has been tumbling. John Kasich is a surprise to some of these campaigns that have been moving up in Iowa and New Hampshire because he hasn't been. So the dynamics actually don't depend on how many people are on the stage. They depend on who's there. And both some of the top campaigns and definitely the undercards are really unhappy with who made it.
If you're someone like Chris Christie, I mean, when you have a ton of candidates, the field has to be narrowed. It's hard to have a coherent debate when there are 15 or even 11 or 10. But I'm struck by where we are now vis-a-vis the calendar. The Iowa caucus, which is only a caucus, quote unquote, is until what, January, February?
February.
And the New Hampshire First in the Nation primary follows Iowa by a relatively short interval. So we are still some time from the first vote being cast or the first caucus meeting being held, and yet there's this very perceptible vice in operation, and for a lot of these folks, Christie, Graham, the others, it doesn't feel too good.
It doesn't. They were kind of girding for this. It was possible that Christie was going to be cut out of the last debate. It was possible that Huckabee was going to be cut out of the last debate. Rand Paul's campaign has been written off by a lot of pundits for months, really since June, since he fell out of the first tier, and they were girding, but pretty confident they were starting to climb back up. The danger is really that voters in Iowa and New Hampshire will forget these guys exist if they're not in that debate stage. And it's hard to counteract that. A lot of candidates in similar positions have had trouble reminding people they exist if they're not in that televised situation. Rick Santorum, who won the Iowa caucus last time, Mike Huckabee, who won them 4 years. I still can't get over the fact that the 2 winners of the Iowa caucuses are not in the main debate and they're running. Rick Santorum has said a couple times, people will come up to him and say they wish he was running, and he'll have to remind them that he is. So it's really tough to get past this media haze, and there's not a good way to. I really don't envy the Fox Business meeting room that had to decide this, because you're never going to satisfy these people. The only advantage you had this week was that the campaigns that met, most of them, 13 campaigns that met in Alexandria on Sunday, were unable to come up with a real theme or set of arguments for how to fix these things. So the networks still have a lot of power in undercutting and limiting who's on stage, because the other campaigns basically won't unionize and find one argument, one way to fix them.
Isn't it amazing, though, that one of the byproducts, if you will, of the last debate, which was certainly the candidates criticized it, and there was external criticism of the moderators as well, the fact that you would have and there was anger directed at the RNC, which has had a heavy hand in this process, or I should say a significant role in this process in terms of trying to not have some of the elements that party leaders felt negatively impacted their ability to pivot toward the general election once their nominee was chosen. If you think back to 2012, their very palpable desire to learn some of the lessons of 2012 and deploy them here in the run-up to 2016, that you would have candidates meet independently and try to come up with some new path forward, and the notion of Donald Trump negotiating individually with the sponsors of the next set of debates, that is all quite remarkable.
There's really no precedent for it, although the reason I was mentioning Lindsey Graham is because the people that Reince Priebus, the RNC, would prefer to have on stage, obviously they're not going to take sides. The people they'd prefer to have up there, I feel, are Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush and Ted Cruz, the guys who've been a bit more established, who they don't feel are embarrassing the party, someone like a Fiorina, and then Lindsey Graham. I think, just knowing from their public statements what they think the Republican Party should stand for, this is not the debate field that they would prefer. And they're a victim of fighting the last war, I think. After 2012, there was a consensus, as you can see in the Republican Party's After Action report in 2013, a consensus that too many debates allowed Mitt Romney to be dragged to the right. And that was, I think, universally believed by everyone at the elite level of the Republican Party. I'm not sure it was true. Mitt Romney actually shined in those debates. Mitt Romney was tuned up very well for the confrontation with Barack Obama, even though he didn't win. To the extent he was moved to the right, it was by everything else that was happening, by having to campaign in Iowa, by the positions he took in order to stave off Rick Santorum. They had a sense that they could fix the image of the Republican Party through just the televised debates without understanding, or maybe appreciating, I'll credit they understand it, without appreciating just how much the base wanted the party to shift to the right. And that's evidenced by the fact that Donald Trump and Ben Carson, who they really did not expect to run or to be on stage, are in center stage with most of the attention, totally immune from any of the attempts to change who is part of the mix here.
We have only about 45 seconds left. What do you think the moderators will do in this upcoming debate in Milwaukee to avoid some of the mistakes in the CNBC encounter?
Well, you just said it. They're very aware of what happened to CNBC. They don't want candidates to roll all over them, and because they're Fox Business, because they've got some credibility, because Fox talks to these guys pretty often, they are, I think, going to come up with more concise, pointed questions on economics and not let the guys just slip over them. I think you'll see at least one moment of a moderator fighting back. I don't have somebody spoiling and telling me that. I just don't think they're going to let the refs be worked over the way they were in the last debate.
It's Tuesday night in Milwaukee. It'll be on the Fox Business Network. 8 candidates on the main stage, 4 on the undercard, and a couple, including former Virginia Governor Jim Gilmore, out of the process entirely. Dave Weigel covering it all for the Washington Post. Dave, thank you very much. We'll talk with you again.
Thank you.
Back with a program note after this.